Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out in the New York Times, January 11th, 2019. Florida pardons the Groveland Four 70 years after Jim Crow era rape case. You know how many times in my lifetime I have seen Black men exonerated for these rapes that never happened? I wish these people would just stop lying about this stuff, but we know historically they never will. Okay, 4 Black men were accused of raping, as usual, a white woman in Florida in 1949, were pardoned on Friday by Governor Ron DeSantis, who called their case a miscarriage of justice. The so-called Groveland Four, Charles Greenlee, Ernest Thomas, and Walter Irving, Samuel Shepard, were accused of rape in 1949 near the city of Groveland in Lake County, Florida. Mr. Thomas was killed shortly thereafter, and the other 3 were taken into custody, beaten, and eventually convicted. Mr. Shepard was later shot and killed by the county sheriff. Mr. Greenlee and Mr. Irving were each imprisoned for more than a decade and released on parole. Both have since died, but 4 years, their family have insisted they're innocent and fought for their pardons. I wanted 2 things to happen, said Carol Greenlee, Mr. Greenlee's daughter, in an interview on Friday. I wanted the world to know the truth, and I wanted my daddy's name clear. That is so sad. State officials voted in favor of the pardon at a meeting with Mr. DeSantis on Friday morning in Tallahassee. Miss Greenlee, 69, and several relatives of the Groveland Four gave testimonies at the meeting. So did Norma Paget, the woman who said she was raped by the young men in 1949 when she was 17. So she was a lying bitch at 17. She said that her accusations back then were true. I'm begging y'all not to give them pardon. She said, no, they didn't. They didn't rape this bitch. They didn't rape her. They did not rape this woman. But Mr. DeSantis appeared convinced that the men had been wrongly convicted. I don't know that there's any way you can look at this case and think those ideals of justice were satisfied, Mr. DeSantis said. Indeed, they were perverted time and time again. The Jim Crow era case attracted widespread attention in 1949. Shortly after the rape was reported, mobs of white residents set to fire to homes and property belonging to Black families in Groveland area. Miss Paget and her husband said that they were on the side of the road with a broken down car when the 4 men attacked and raped her. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Nope. Plus, these women have a long history of lying about rape. Their lies about rape goes back centuries. And 9 times out of 10, when the truth comes out about a rape, it's the same woman always telling the damn lie. No, I don't believe her. She was 17 and a big liar. 3 of the men were arrested that night, but Mr. Thomas ran. He was eventually tracked down by a posse of men in the woods and killed in what has been described a hail of gunfire. NAACP lawyers include Franklin Williams and Thurgood Marshall, who I guess they played an active role in the men's defense. Um, they argued that Mr. Greenlee and Mr. Thomas were nowhere near the scene of the alleged crime, that beatings had led to forced confessions, and the important pieces of evidence, including a medical examination of Miss Paget, were never presented in court because the rape didn't happen. I can tell you why it wasn't presented in court. It didn't happen. But an all-white jury sentenced Mr. Irving and Mr. Shepard to death, and Mr. Greenlee to life in prison. Mr. Irving and Mr. Shepard appealed to the Supreme Court, and their convictions were unanimously overturned in 1951. But shortly thereafter, the sheriff of Lake County, Willis V. McCall, was driving the two men to a court appearance when they pulled over and shot them both. He said that he did it in self-defense. Oh my goodness. No, they didn't like the fact that the case was overturned, and it should have been rightfully overturned because the bitch was not raped. You can see them laying dead on the ground, and he's claiming some self-defense. He's a fucking liar. Let's go on. Mr. Shepard died and Mr. Irving survived. But at his retrial, another all-white jury sentenced him to death again. That sentence was later commuted to life in prison. Mr. Greenlee and Mr. Irving were each paroled more than 50 years later, but Mr. Irving died a year after his release. Mr. Greenlee did not talk about the case very much, according to his daughter, in part because he barely knew what had happened, having suddenly been arrested alongside two men he had never met before. She said she learned more than when a book about the case, Legal Lynching, The Sad Saga of the Groveland Four by Gary Corsair, was published in 2004. Why is he prophesying? See, this is what I don't like. You know, they put you falsely in jail, and the same people that put you in falsely on some lying conviction want to now write and publish a book and make a profit off of it. Okay. Greenlee died in 2012, the same year that another book about the case, Devil in the Grove by Gilbert King, was published. It would go on to win a Pulitzer Prize. Who cares? Let me just see something. Okay, you can still get the book on Amazon. Wow, that's a damn shame, y'all. Okay, I guess that's Gilbert King right here. Wow. All right, y'all. It's so typical. The Orlando Centennial, which reported the case when it was the Orlando Morning Centennial, apologized for its coverage this week. The paper said in an editorial on Thursday that it had inflamed the public by running a cartoon showing electric chairs, effectively suggesting that, the death penalty. Okay, well, we know the media in this country have always perpetuated a lot of hateful things towards the Black community. And, and they help and assist in our arrest, our killing, and everything else. So I'm not surprised that they made that depiction for these black men, electric chairs and cartoons. And, this is the bullshit they do. They still do that to this day. They still do it. We're sorry that our coverage of the event and the aftermath lent credibility to the cover up and the official racist narrative, the editorial said. In 2017, the state of Florida formally apologized to the family of the Groveland Four that helped to pave the way for Friday's pardon under Mr. DeSantis, who was inaugurated earlier this week. Ms. Greenlee said that she was feeling overwhelmed and happy with the decision. It takes load off of you, she said. It takes away the guilt of the past. No, the only one that should be feeling guilty is Paget here, who lied her ass off, like many like her in her time. And people were killed unnecessarily and jailed unnecessarily, going off of the lie of one woman. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be in a different era, but things have not changed one bit. That's a shame. They got away with jailing these men for nothing, just like they get away with it today. And these folks got the nerve to believe that we are wrong if we talk about these things and express ourselves about it. No, we are not wrong. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. This is just disgusting. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.